In Anchorage, Alaska, the temperature is negative 13 degrees Fahrenheit. A cold front is scheduled to come in and drop the temperature 14 degrees. That's an important word there. What will the temperature be after the cold front? Can anyone tell me what equation or what expression you need to write to solve that? What's the math sentence? It's subtracting, so what should it look like? Negative 13 minus 14 or plus negative 14. Those are the same things, right? Negative 13 minus 14 means to go 14 in the negative direction on the number line. Or when you rewrite it, it looks like this. And I kind of think of this as a and then. So you're at negative 13 and then you move negative 14. And what is our answer for that? Negative 27. When the signs are the same, you add them together and keep the sign. And so word problems need to have words in the answer. What will the temperature be after the cold front? The temperature will be negative 27 degrees Fahrenheit, period. Capital letters, punctuation, units with the negative 27. Your work should look like that. All right, 2A through D. These are all subtraction problems. So you can either solve them like a subtraction problem or you can rewrite them. So A is negative 13 and then minus 9. So you'll go 9 in the negative direction, or negative 13 plus negative 9. And so what is the answer to negative 13 plus negative 9? Raise your hand if you know. Autumn? Negative 22. 45 plus 60 looks like 45 minus 60 looks like 45 plus negative 60. Anyone know the answer to 45 plus negative 60? Alexis? Negative 15. Right? Remember the rule on A is if the signs are the same, you add them together and keep the sign. If the signs are different, like this, you subtract. 60 minus 45 is 15. 60 has the greatest absolute value, and it's negative, so your answer is negative. Negative 9 minus negative 18. How would we rewrite that one? Yes. Negative 9 plus 18. Dominic, do you know the answer? So if the signs are different, you're going to subtract. 18 minus 9 is 9. The 18 has the greatest absolute value, and it's positive, so your answer is positive. Okay? You could also think about it as if you're down here on the number line at negative 9, and you go 18 in the positive, you're going to cross 0, right? And you're going to get to the positive section. 1/4 minus 3/4. Let's rewrite that. 1/4 plus negative 3/4. The signs are different, so what do? Add or subtract? Subtract. 3/4 minus 1/4 is 3/4 minus 1/4? 2/4. And what does that simplify to? 1/2. And is it positive or negative? Which one has the greatest absolute value? Negative, so it's negative 1/2 is your answer. Label the number line with the appropriate equation. Who wants to give this one a try? Somebody besides Autumn. Summer, you want to give it a go? Okay. 2. 2 different ways to write this one. It's not minus negative 4. It could be minus 4. No, it's not 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 minus 6 equals negative 4. The way I normally write that one is 2 plus, meaning and then. I'm going to go negative 6, and that equals negative 4. Either of those are correct. This one is the more correct, because if you wrote this, this is what you would change it to. But this is also what you're doing. All right. 4, you start at 0, and I'm going to draw my arrow where? Where's my first arrow go? To 3, positive 3. Pick your pencil up, and now what are we going to do? Draw, go negative 8 places to the left, and Sean said we're going to stop at negative 5. Agreed. Dominic, don't be disrespectful. Okay. All right. Questions about your warm-up? Okay. Put it to the side. Let's talk about homework. I'm still in the process of grading homework. Hopefully I'll have it back tomorrow. Let's look at this week's homework. Homework 6, the top is still the same. You're writing fractions, decimals, and percents. You can use a calculator for this one. Down here, Tuesday, we are not using a calculator. So let's look at this. We've got parentheses, parentheses, exponents. What do we do if we have 2 sets of parentheses? We're going to work left to right. And what is this? Negative 12 over 4. What kind of problem is that? What is it? It's division. So parentheses, this is really exponent. What's happening between what I find for here and what I find for here? What's the math if there's not a plus or minus and they're both in parentheses? Multiplication is going to be happening from there. Some division, and then the last step is going to be some addition. So that's what we're going to work on today, is order of operations. I saw lots of people skipped this section of Wednesday last week. If you are a person that does not know how to do that, you need to come to lunch tutoring. You can use a calculator for this section. But make sure that you are writing the decimal. Show each decimal conversion, like 1/2. You need to show you know that is 5/10. That must be shown. It says it for it to be correct. I have to see the math that you did, that you didn't just guess. Fractions, your answer must be in simplest form. No calculators. Do not change to decimals. Fraction problems have fraction answers. Do not change to decimals. All right, and 2 word problems there. All right, questions about homework? Okay, all right, let's look at the vocabulary. We're starting our new unit today. If you were absent or didn't finish your test, you need to come to lunch tutoring this week and finish your unit test. I'm not going to grade unit tests until everyone has them done. All right. Let's look at your vocabulary words. You can study online at this website. I also dropped the link to Quizlet in Google Classroom. The first word is algebraic expression. An expression is a combination of variables and numbers and at least one operation. Normally, an expression does not have an equal sign. It's normally these 2 things. A coefficient. The coefficient is the number before a variable. So in this expression, the coefficient is 5. It's like the co-pilot. It tells you how many x's you have. You have x's, you have 5 x's. The 5 is the coefficient. Here in this expression, the constant, the number that never changes that's the same, is -7. This is the constant, and that negative sign goes with it. That constant would be a -7. Equation. An equation is a mathematical sentence with an, what's the important part of an equation? An equal sign. It has an equal sign. An inequality is a statement that compares two quantities using less than, greater than, equal to, less than, equal to, greater than, or here's another one, not equal to. An inequality means that it's also not equal to. A numerical expression. A numerical expression is just numbers added, subtracted, multiplied, or divided. It's different from an algebraic expression because an algebraic expression has variables. Numerical just has numbers. A term. A term is how many different things you have separated by a plus or minus. There are 2 terms in this expression. A variable. You all know what that is. A variable is a letter that represents an unknown number. And those are your 8 vocabulary words for this section. Okay. All right. So in our journal, we're going to put that in our journal. Let's see. If you don't have your journal, you can get your journal. Oh. Dividing fractions. It looked like this one. What's the reciprocal? All right, so today in our journal, we're going to start Unit 2. I skipped a line, wrote Unit 2. Don't skip a lot of lines or you're going to run out of... Okay, just put it over there. I'll fix it. So we're going to glue our Unit 2 vocabulary that we just talked about on page 19. And... when we get to it, don't glue the order of operations in yet, but we're going to get to that in just a minute. It's going to go on 20 and 21. So I'm going to go ahead. I don't think I'm going to trim that down at all. Anybody need another minute on this? Okay. Can I what? Make it bigger? So, cut out the hopscotch board so it looks like this. All one piece. So it looks like that. you are going to glue this on page 21 on the right side. Make sure you leave room to write over here. We're going to write over here, so kind of shift it over on your paper a little to the left because we want some room to write over here. Your vocabulary should be on the page before it, right there, page 19. That should be your vocabulary. Turn the page. 21 should be order of operations. Make sure that you leave room to write over here. All right, order of operations. You're going to start up here with P. What does that stand for? Parentheses. You need to also know that could be a G for grouping, different grouping symbols. And what are the different grouping symbols that we have? So you could have the parentheses. We already said that. You could have these brackets that look like this. Or you could have order of operations, absolute value bars. Those are your three different kinds of groupings. You could have you could have this grouping right here, and inside of that you could have parentheses. So these are all of your grouping. So the grouping symbols are these: parentheses, brackets, or absolute value bars. After that we have exponents. Step 2, you solve exponents. What's next? Multiplication and division. Let's see. So why are these next to each other instead of multiplication first and then division? Because they're equal, right? So you work left to right. This is where I always see those order of operations problems like on social media. And people have them wrong because they don't work left to right. There's always a big argument that multiplication comes before division, but it does not. If you have both of them, you work left to right. Work left to right. I'm even going to get my highlighter and I'm going to highlight work left to right. I don't know why that's smeared so bad. It doesn't usually smear on me. I guess I didn't let it dry enough. And last, what do we have? Add and subtract. And they're like multiply and divide. You have to do what? Left or right? Oh, no, I don't want to do all of that. I just want to do this part. Work left to right again. Do it. It doesn't like you. All right, questions about it? So you've been doing order of operations for a couple of years, right? So it's just going to get a little bit more sophisticated, a little bit more steps, but it's still the same thing that you've been doing. Does anybody need more time to write this before we try a couple of practice problems? All right, 1 minute. I really want this to be on a lazy Susan. I want it to spin better than it does. I guess you can't have everything. This last one, I'm going to put it right there. All right, we're good? Okay. So over here on page 20, this page to the left of our notes, this is where we're going to try a couple of practice problems. All right, the first one I want to try. $45 minus 5 times 2 times 3. 45 divided by 5 minus 2 times 3. So where are we going to start with this one? Parentheses, and so we're going to do 2 times 3 is 6. So rewrite it, 45 divided by 5 minus 6. So now we have division and subtraction. So which one comes next? Division. 45 divided by 5 is 9. 9 minus 6, and 9 minus 6 is 3. You should end up with a pizza slice or a Dorito. All right, let's look at the next one. Let's look at the next one now. We're going to start with a bracket. That's a bracket. Going to have a bracket and then 6 minus, and then a parentheses. 15 divided by 3, end parentheses, and end your bracket. Times 13. So, we have a bracket that we go to first. So that's your first grouping. Inside that, you have subtraction and a parentheses. Which one do you think you do first? You're going to go straight to this parentheses. 15 divided by 3 is what? 5. So you rewrite your bracket and say 6 minus 5, end your bracket, times 13. So you still have grouping, and grouping still comes before multiplication. So we're going to go back to here. 6 minus 5 is 1, and you have 1 times 13. And 1 times 13 is 13. That's what it means by grouping. Go straight to the grouping and then go inside and follow order of operations inside the grouping. Two plus 3 times negative 21 divided by 3. So you have 2 sets of parentheses. What do you think you do? Left to right. So we're going to solve. We're going to do this one first. 2 plus 3 is 5 times negative 21 divided by 3. Now we're going to do this or this. Parentheses. So negative 21 divided by 3. 5 times negative 7. And 5 times negative 7 is negative 35. Just these. We're done. All right. Any questions about those? Why do we do what? All right. No questions. Okay. So here's what we're going to do. Shh. You are going to, in just a minute, you can either work on your own Hold on. I don't know why it's giving me trouble. You're either going to work on your own or with a partner. You can work with a partner. You can see in here I added some things. Here's an order of operations game you can work on your own time if you're having trouble. Here is the Unit 2 vocabulary. Here, we're going to try some boom cards. I don't know if you've tried those before. But you are going to log in here. I think you already have an account created. I think you'll just sign in with Google. And you're going to try these order of operations cards. There's 2 different decks. One is easier than the other one. So if you try one and it seems too easy, you can quit it and try the harder ones. If you try some and they seem too hard, stop it and go back to the easy ones first. Okay? I will be able to see on my computer screen how you're doing on them. And so make sure that you're trying your best. You may need a whiteboard or scratch paper while you're working. If you're not working well with your partner, we will separate you and you will work on your own. Questions? Okay, go ahead and get started.